Right. So let me start with you, Mr. Chude. You know, the presidency on Thursday, actually, according to the newspapers that we have, and then the news that broke, you know, dispelled rumor that, you know, surrounding an alleged proposal by the Minister of Finance to pay, that the federal government has agreed to pay 105,000 minimum wage for Nigerians. But all of these, and then Nigerians are wondering exactly where is the federal government going to, you know, take a stand? How are you reading, you know, these current developments regarding the negotiations to arrive at the national minimum wage?
Well, you know, in the past few hours, most of the dailies have captured that story that the Minister of Finance has submitted a proposal to the federal government for something about in the region of about, I think, 105,000 naira or so. And it's everywhere, most of the major, you know, dailies, online too, and traditional newspapers. Then again, not too long ago, another story that actually from the presidency that it is not so. So somewhere in between, I believe, lies the truth. So we also don't know whether it's a kite that is being flown by the government to see, or, you know, to gauge the reaction of Nigerian workers and Nigerians in general. But either way, the reality is that the Minister of Finance was given a marching order to get this thing done within 48 hours. You know, and if it is not done within 48 hours, obviously the president is going to be embarrassed. So I want to believe that he has to comply, and he's going to comply, or he has complied already. Well, that is where it is really. Somewhere, I think along the line, the government will have to make a statement. I know that the Labour is waiting patiently to listen to hear what the government has to put on the table. Obviously, that strike was called off in deference from what the Labour leadership said, in deference to the intervention of the president. One would wish that he had made that intervention, you know, much earlier. But be that as it may, the intervention has been made. The strike has been, you know, suspended, at least for the moment. And then I'm sure that Labour is waiting with bated breath to hear something positive from the government. And then I think they will sit down again and then discuss. And I think that is really what negotiation is all about. Negotiation must be done in good faith. And then it is not, negotiation is not done, even if you think that you are the stronger partner in the negotiation process. It's not done to ensure a win-win. I mean, a win at all cost situation for one side. It has to be a win-win situation. You have to give something back, and you have to take something back. That is what it's all about. And I'm hoping that at the end of the day, workers will be able to have something that, of course, they are going to, I won't say smile, because if you're talking about workers smiling, it is going to take much more than the government, I think, will give. You don't forget that the word has been about living wage, and the president talked about it during his inauguration. And about a week or two ago, he also talked about giving his desire to give workers a living wage. So the issue is, what is a living wage? If you're talking about a living wage, then it is going to be something much, much higher than the 105,000 naira that we are being told might possibly be on the table. The living wage, is that wage that would make it's not that wage that would ensure that the worker buys himself a car, or he can travel anytime he wants to travel by air. No, that which will assure the worker of a reasonable level of living experience that would take care of his basic needs, healthcare, accommodation, utility bills, and all of that. That's what you call a living wage.
That's right.
All right, Mr. Chike, some have argued that the time frame given by the labor unions to the federal government is quite short, looking at the consequential adjustments that will follow and the amount of money that is involved. What do you make of this statement, looking at the fact that the former president took about 3 years to also make this adjustment?
When the politicians want to get things done, and they have an interest in getting things done, it will be done with immediate automatic alacrity, and it will take effect almost immediately. Have you also considered the fact that for years it took the National Assembly, for instance, couldn't pass some bills. It took some bills take as much as 10 years, in the National Assembly, some 4 years, 8 years, and so on, depending. And sometimes you have to have a change of, the Assembly after a general election, and then they start all over from the beginning. But have you not marveled at the phenomenon of some of these bills getting passed within 24 hours, as much as 30 bills at the same time, getting passed at the same time by the same politicians? And so when they want to show lethargy, they show lethargy. When they want to get things done based on what is at stake and what is of paramount interest to them, they get these things done. It's not just members of National Assembly, even the government itself. And so if, like you said, it took the previous government 3 years, it is because it was not of significance to them. If it's of significance to them, they control the levers of government. All the president needs to do is to ensure that his subordinates understand that he wants this thing done with military, I would have said military dispatch, but we're in a civilian administration. Absolutely. with automatic, dispatch, and it is done. It's all about the body language of the people who are in charge. And so once that body language is communicated appropriately to every other person that should respond, then you shouldn't be surprised if it is done immediately and quickly. So that's just what it's all about. If they don't want to get it done, they just come up with all kinds of bottlenecks and delay tactics.
That's right.
But this can be done in record time. That's
right. Let me come to the studio with Titi Akosa. Achuke is actually taking a stand, but then with the president directing the Minister of Finance, to present cost application for a new minimum wage to him within 48 hours, which has now been, delivered to the president. Does it not show that the president, the federal government, is willing to, do something very meaningful for Nigerian workers, especially with the fact that during the electioneering period, he said what Nigerian workers deserve is not minimum wage, but a living wage. He actually used that term. How are you reading it?
Well, I think for the president to have said, go and do this, present me a template, let's look at the cost implication, it means it's actually serious. Going by, if I have to go by what I'm reading in the papers, I think it's serious. That is the way I think. And the reason is this. We all know that our economy is not in particularly good shape, and things are changing every day. Cost of foodstuff, everything is rising. As we speak now, I think we are about 33% on inflation. And then, of course, government buys and so many things in the market too, just like me and you. They have people, they are paying salaries, and they have the top echelon in the civil service. They have the lower echelon also. So if they have a top heavier echelon, you understand? So it means that they'll pay more in terms of just indiscriminately increasing salary. It's going to tell. Yes. So telling the Minister for Finance to can we look at the cost implication? This shows that they want to really look at hard evidence on the table and then be able to take a rational decision. For me, on the side of the Labour have not even told us. I'm not sure whether, I didn't read it, how they have gotten to their own minimum wage they are negotiating. Right now, government is saying...
Referring to the revised 494,000?
Honestly, I don't know. Maybe they have their own cost implications, of course, analyzed, which they have not told the whole world.
By Labour,
yeah,
analyzing based on
the
purchasing power, the cost of transportation,
all these things, yeah. So all these things, they must look at those scenarios, how to do all the analysis, and then come at a reasonable price that we're talking about. So government too is also assessing its own systems to see what is going to be reasonable. And we almost forget that when it comes to minimum wage in this country, it's going to be enacted into law. So it means it's binding on everybody, not only the civil service, but also the private sector. And we know that this private sector too has its own structure. And not everybody in the private sector will maybe even be able to pay that 60,000 monthly. So we have to put all these things into consideration. So I'm happy that the government is doing its own costing. And you have said the Labour have done its own costing. And we also need to look at other external issues. What is the inflation telling us? If we had more, will the inflation shoot up or will it come down? These are necessary things we need to sit down and discuss. See.
So that brings me to my next question. Labour is saying that the new minimum wage must be equal in purchasing power to the value of 30,000 naira in 2019 and 18,000 naira in 2014.
And how much naira?
And 18,000 naira in 2014. That was the minimum wage then. Does this make any sense to you if we look at the current inflation?
I think you need to repeat those words so that I can get what you're saying clearly.
The Labour is saying that the new minimum wage must be equal in purchasing power. Whatever you are getting must be equal to whatever we have in 2019, 30,000 naira as the minimum wage, and 18,000 naira in 2014. Does this make any sense?
Well, when you look at it from what they have said, it's like, okay, if we cannot go up, let us still remain where we are. Maybe 2018, 2019, but that's not reality anyway. It can never be reality. 2018 or 2014 is not the same as 2024. Things have changed beyond money. There are other things that have also changed beyond all the prices that we are throwing and bouncing about. So it may not be equal to what you have in 2014 or 2018. There could be a lot of changing based on costing, based on analysis, based on system-wide assessments, and so many other things go into all this. So, of course, and it will also not be really right of Labour to want to ensure that Nigerian people stay static at a particular place. Honestly, I think they should be more vibrant than that.
Absolutely. Well, they should be more vibrant. I'm wondering how much more vibrant they would be, you know, after shutting down the national grid and all of that.
At least that one shows that they are serious. Before, they don't shut down. But in the last 2 days now, we felt it. So the reason why we felt it is because it's about people's, what they call it, money for their labor. So
absolutely.
For me, I don't like shutting down, but if you need to drive it home so that things will be done. You saw what President did. Within 48 hours, do this, do that.
At the risk of essential services.
I'm not saying no. We can leave essential services, please.
Power is essential.
Yeah, power is very, very essential. I was telling you, I felt it. But at the same time, it's also good for Labour to tell government that we're not going to take this shit anymore.
We'll talk about the rash actions that Labour has taken so far. But then let me go to